Okay, so this is my review of the new Netflix series Unbelievable. Now, obviously, this is based off of a true story, and the thing you got to realize here, it's actually based off a Pulitzer Prize winning story, and they have adapted it now into this miniseries. And the other important thing is that you can see now this is directed by 3 different people. So the first 3 episodes are actually directed by the director of The Kids Are All Right, Lisa Cholodenko. The next 3 are directed by Michael Dinner, and the last 2 are directed by Susanna Grant. And that's very important for the series because I definitely could tell the different styles and had many thoughts in particular about different episodes. So let's jump right into that. So to me, episode 1 of this series was one of the most important episodes of a show I've seen in a long time. And what I mean by that is there's been so many shows and movies in history that tackle the issue of rape. But what was so important about this was that in this pilot episode, you're seeing that, yeah, we're getting a graphic rape scene and it just jumps right into it, which I appreciate that it jumped it right into the story and didn't waste time. But what's more important is the aftermath and how people handle someone accusing somebody of rape, being assaulted. And you see with Marie, our lead character, played brilliantly by Kaitlyn Dever, who just starred in the movie Booksmart, that it is a torturous process and can be super abusive. And you see this so brilliantly shown through this episode because I love they decide when she goes to the hospital and when she talks to these detectives, it's that like fluorescent light we've all been in when we're at hospitals, and it's just all just very bright lighting that gives the intensity to it and almost like that depressing atmosphere, and that they gave everybody just a real look. And that includes Marie here, where they're not like putting all this fake makeup on her and keeping her look her best. They just let it be natural and real. And it made you feel like, oh my God, this like is a real thing that happened. This is how this stuff goes about. And you see that it brilliantly depicts how much pressure they give this girl when they're interrogating her and why someone would change what they said. And you hear about all these assault cases and why someone might go back on what they said and they go, aha, they were lying, and how that happens and how it's a traumatic experience, just the aftermath too. And that's just a lot of props to the director here. And also Kaitlyn Dever, she plays this so well. I really like how they showed her hand shaking and it would cut to her thinking about the incident while these detectives were just going hard at her. It was really hard to watch, but it was necessary. It was important so people can understand this. And I don't think I've watched anything that was so clear and opened my mind to what really goes on if someone goes and reports a rape. And this is really detailed and shows you, and that's how you had to do this to really make that conversation grow even stronger. And they do a good job of putting you in her shoes, that suffocating feeling. Again, going to a lot of close-ups here. And really, too, the nurses they show, it's like they make it seem and feel like in her shoes, you feel like you're like this product or an animal. They're just treating her like they're robotic nurses. They're just taking DNA, and no one's even asking her really if she's okay or if she's ready for this. And what really worked about that, going with that angle in the pilot and just focusing on her story, was that when we get introduced to Merritt Wever's character, Detective Karen, in episode 2, we actually see a different rape case and how she handles it compared to the male cops, which is another important dialogue this show is having here, where, wait a minute, there really is super importance here in just a field like detective work with gender, because you could see a woman, Merritt Wever's character, Karen, how she handles a very almost identical situation and does it completely differently. She's so caring to the victim. She's letting her take her time. She's not making assumptions. She's not forcing her to do anything. She's always putting the victim first and trusting the victim's words. And that is the huge difference here. And that was just bright as day. And they did such a good job with that. Again, props to the director. Now, for those first 2 episodes, you can see that this director who did The Kids Are All Right is really good at just that interpersonal drama, human drama, and showing that. Now, these first 3 episodes she directed, though, I was feeling that episode 1 was excellent. That's definitely one of the best of this series, but 2 and 3, especially 3 for me, fumbled around a lot. And I mean by that is the side of it with the detectives, with Toni Collette's character, Grace, and Merritt Wever's Karen, because there was like a tone it had that was like very CSI at points, or any CBS kind of detective drama where it got a little hokey. The music, the comedy was a little forced and flat. There was one scene with Karen's victim that she was handling where that girl's with her boyfriend, and he has a line, "I'm a mathematician, I believe in numbers." I was crying my eyes out how ridiculous that was and how corny that was. There's certain like things like that felt very like CBS in those first 3 episodes, particularly 2 and 3. So I feel like Lisa Cholodenko's strength was in covering Marie's story, but not as great in doing the detective parts of it and keeping that entertaining and a good pace. It was just, again, jumbled around and felt like it's just a different tone than the rest of the show will eventually go to. That would be some of my criticism. I do like her choice, though, of introducing Marie and then introducing Merritt Wever in the next episode, and then introducing Toni Collette, who everyone's waiting for, in episode 3. That was cool and gave them time to build their characters, which I appreciated. So I always nitpick things, but a big problem for me was they opened the show with the title on the bottom giving you the setting, and it says Oakdale. But for some reason, they refused to give you the state in that situation or the year, which was really frustrating to me, because then in episode 2, it starts, and when we see Merritt Wever's character, Karen, it tells us it's clearly in Colorado in 2011. So I'm like, okay, so this is a different time period than the first episode, but what the hell, when was the first episode? Was it before? Was it after? And then you figure out through other things when it was, but I didn't know what state or what timeline Marie's story was in from the first episode until I looked at the episode 2 description, not even in the show itself. And they didn't actually show that it took place, Marie's story, in Washington until in 2008, clearly with a title, until like episode 3 or 4, which was just absurd to me. They did the whole season, basically, that the times they decided to give you the setting of the town or the year, it was all over the place. They randomly would remind you it's in Washington in the year, but then they just wouldn't for a couple episodes, and you're like, what the hell? Where are we? And what year is this? And then it just appalled me that if they were going to do that, they decided in the first episode, in the first scene, not to tell you the year or the state, which was frustrating to me. That's me nitpicking, but that was just a weird decision I did not agree with. I'm enjoying the story, but please try not to make it so confusing in that sense. It's just a simple thing, you know? I don't see the upside of not telling us the year. But man, you feel so much for Marie here. There's just parts where everyone just goes against her when it's come out that she's lied, and wow, these at-risk kids are real jerks, huh? None of them were supportive to her and just all hated her after that. That was a little much. You would think at least one of them would have a soul, and especially the counselors giving her a curfew. And then she gets betrayed by her foster mom, Judith, when she goes to the cops and says she thinks she's lying. And it was really tough to watch, too, when her foster dad basically tells her he doesn't want her at the house alone with her because he doesn't want to risk anyone thinking anything or ruin his reputation. So hard to watch. It felt like watching that old 90s Nickelodeon movie, Harriet the Spy, where it's so hard to watch just one innocent girl victim being just ridiculed and not believed by and put down by so many people. It's a tough watch, you know, but again, it's very necessary for us to see this, and I love the show wasn't afraid of doing that. What I did like too here was this show effectively flipped our usual norms in TV and positions we see in life where, you know, the females are bosses, the males are interns, and it's really good. They did a good job with Merritt Wever here as the boss, yelling at the men in the office like to move quicker, to have more push to get this done. They had a really good commentary just in general throughout this series about where men don't take these rape allegations as seriously as women do, and they just tiptoe. And I love that, especially Toni Collette's character, Grace, just was so hard and gung-ho about that. Like, come on, let's take this seriously, let's go. And I thought that was a really good, just eye-opening experience to watch. I also like this theme they set up too here, where you're seeing they're connecting the dots that this might be a cop and that it was these lady cops banding together to make sure not to spill that too soon, because it could risk that operation. Again, just opened your eyes to how much corruption there still is, especially with trying to throw a cop in jail. But again, these couple early episodes, I thought the humor was a little forced and off, a little cringy, especially the scene where Mia is on the computer and she's like, I got all their information because I told them it was for a Veterans Day list, and then all the girls in the office smirk. Like, that kind of stuff to me is a little cheesy and on the nose. In the beginning too, it was a little frustrating because it seemed like every single guy was an idiot or just a dummy. So like, obviously you already can see through a couple of them, you get the point. So it was like kind of a little bit overkill too, where again, that can also, if you want to get other people to get a point that you're trying to make politically, it's like, bring them into it realistically. Don't over the top do it that it's like shoving down the throat either. It's just not as effective. I think if you want to get everybody's eye and the people you really want to convert to your philosophy, make it as real as possible. And I think they really nail that in later episodes with the female guy perspective going on and how it handles in an office space like that. I really like the theme here where you see that these two foster moms have said they've had similar experiences to Marie, but Colleen gets that, hey, that doesn't mean that it's exactly the same, and she can react a different way than we possibly did. And that was just a good message there too, because that could happen with victims talking about other victims where everyone reacts differently. So I like that. And also that Colleen's the foster mom who wanted to take action, where Judith messed things up because she just wanted it to go away, just like the cops. She didn't want to even like look at it, and that's a big theme that we'll go more into later on. They readdress. And I love how they set up these two detectives together with Karen and Grace, where Toni Collette's Grace is more of the pessimist here, the realist. She's not about God, she's not religious, where Merritt Wever's character Karen, she is actually of faith and religion, and she's also of hope. She is optimistic. She comes off sad, but she really is the optimist in this relationship. And that also works perfectly because she's the newer detective here, where Toni Collette has been around the block. And that just worked perfectly and was perfectly cast for that. And how they kind of both worked off each other perfectly with that. And they balanced each other as a team in that area. I thought that was excellent. And it also led to some really good humor between the two of them later on. Just the jokes about each other's lifestyles, I think that just really worked great. I also enjoyed the humor. I thought did work. It got more better towards the middle was actually the intern here. The guy, I think him slipping up was great, and that he finally got redemption, because you see a lot of those guy interns in offices now. And it worked well with the older lady in the office too, that it was her intern and she was bragging about how good she was making him. That was great. And that's played by Dale Dickey. She did a great job. So in my head, watching the series, realizing the first three were directed by Lisa Kolodenko, I think she was the best person to do episode 1, and episode 1 was excellent. 2 and 3 wasn't crazy about, and there's also points where I was starting to lose a lot of interest. I just kind of felt like, again, that CBS feeling of a crime show and dull. But then when it gets passed off episode 4 to episode 6 is where Michael Dinner directs it, and I really felt like episode 5 is where this show found its groove and its good pacing, and again where the detective stuff got way better and didn't feel cheesy. And from episode 5 on, it doesn't look back. And there was a really, really strong scene for me with Toni Collette when she says, I don't understand why the FBI detective's not outraged. Why isn't there that wanting to solve this and move? And what was really good was Merritt Wever telling her, you're totally right, you're not wrong, but we got to get this done, and you screaming into the wind isn't changing anything. There's a different way to do it. And I think this is just really a good commentary just about outrage and how everyone gets outraged about so much stuff, which is always in the right intention, but that also that part of working together with these people, show them how to do this, and it's more like do the work than less talk, you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that worked really well. And then this is where the humor started clicking, like when they did the nose goes, where someone had to go to Kansas, like all that chemistry started clicking kind of midway in the show. And then there's just like some crazy scenes where Toni Collette's going to check on this cop that they're suspicious of, and he spits in her face at the bar. That was crazy. And I really, really loved here with Marie, where there's this symbolism of, you constantly get mentioned about her wanting to drive and get her license. And it was like such a payoff, because they're setting up midway where she keeps going to the DMV. She wants to get her license. She's telling people about it. She takes a road test but fails it. And it's not till the end that she's driving. And it's, again, her finally taking the wheel in her life and learning to drive. And it also blends so well with just when she was actually thinking about when she was first raped and she's running on the beach. It's like, you know, her losing that hope she talks about later on, and that innocence and just optimism in life and thinking of good, and then giving up on that because of that assault. And at the end, ending up at the beach and recapturing that optimism again due to good in the world, which was the two detectives, which we'll get more into. But again, they set it up here, and that was some beautiful, beautiful symbolism with her. What made me just literally tear a lot in these last episodes, and they set up well here, was with Marie being a foster kid. They showed the loneliness she goes through, and also being a victim and not being listened to by anybody. They did such a good job of portraying that loneliness. And just seems like in the DMV where everyone's with a parent and she's alone, and there's her losing her friends again. Like, that was tough. And it's also just an example and a commentary on foster care too, where when these people get older, like, people think they just go on with the life and get really good jobs and get a degree, and it's not always the case, and most times it isn't. And it's something our country has to reevaluate, because a lot of these people end up homeless too. So there is that just like loneliness effect going on here, and a commentary on that, and it just adds more weight to this whole case and story. And I mean, do I even have to say this, but Toni Collette and Merritt Wever were impeccable as well. Their chemistry was off the charts, and I love the humor Toni Collette brings to this, especially just her talking about her God is just alcohol and dogs. And I love it comes back around too, that Merritt Wever character was inspired by her, and that she learned so much from her, and it became this mentor relationship. Now, another standout scene for me was actually in episode 6, where it really showed me too that Merritt Wever can handle some big monologues and some big emotional scenes. And what I love about her style of acting is that she reminds me of a Mark Ruffalo type, where she's very real and realistic. There's never any hamming up, or you never feel like she's just acting and performing. It just feels like a normal person, and that's something that needs to be applauded too. I really respect actresses and actors who can do that, and she does it so well. I thought her best scene in this whole series was this scene where her and Toni are sitting down, and Toni brings out the cards, right? And they kind of are really talking about their philosophies here, just about how to handle being this detective in this dark job, and making sure you still have a life and family and other things to value. And, you know, it was almost like symbolic too with the cards of like, you know, this was Toni being a mentor here and giving her speech and kind of giving her side of the table here in this game they play. And it was kind of like Merritt Wever was like, oh, she has the best hand here, and kind of lays it on Toni. And she was right here, where like, it's not any knock on Toni's character, but it was more of a like, just showing you the level you can go to someone who really is for doing the best they can for a victim. And that was Merritt's character here, where she talks about a story where, you know, she was like with coworkers and they wanted her to just grab a beer with her and loosen up, and she missed a big thing in her case, and more abuse happened because of her taking that break, and her gut was telling her don't go home yet, and following that gut. So it's just interesting to see the contrast. It's not preaching to you what's right or wrong, it's just showing you like different levels of commitment. And I thought that was just really powerful stuff, and does show you there's really, really good people out there. And then you get Kaitlyn Dever here, just knocks it out of the park as Marie here, with when she goes to the counselor and has her monologue about zombie apocalypse. Oh my God. This is also incredible writing as well, besides just the acting. And you see this story, you got to connect here. Obviously the zombies are these monster, rapists, terrible people in the world, but she's talking about how humans are the ones in these zombie apocalypse who can be even more dangerous and you got to worry about, which is all these people in her life who are enabling these zombies and just ignoring her needs. And she talks about, in order to survive, assume everyone is your enemy. And that is like the defense mechanism right there. And you've seen that in apocalypse shows as well, and it just shows you that relation to how a rape survivor could feel. And they had a really good sequence here I loved. It was very stylistic, where they're showing McCarthy is caught, right? And he's in the jail cell, and it's flashing between him and Merritt Wever's character just looking at the evidence and seeing her face the truth of this monster, and then find the panties and the amp, which is crazy. And that came all full circle too. And what was great too about this Marie counselor thing is when she went in there, she was drenched and it was pouring rain behind her in that scene, which is just, again, beautiful production design. What a shot. And once she has her breakthrough with the counselor, it stops raining. So really good detail there. And that is when I started raining out of my eyes. That was beautiful, and I'm trying not to cry on camera now, but man, this was some emotional stuff here in these last couple episodes. Tears will probably come out when we talk about the last episode. And the counselor was excellent as well. It's just a good counselor. She knew how to get her to break open, was doing the complete opposite again of those men detectives from the beginning. It's just letting her speak on her terms, and that they didn't even have to speak if she didn't want to. And what was beautifully synced was when Merritt is finding the evidence and finding answers and getting a win here, and then Marie on the other end is having this huge breakthrough. It's all synced together back and forth, and it goes to the title where Merritt even says it's unbelievable. And that isn't just meaning unbelievable that they've got this guy and got a win here and found this from all their hard work. It's also just the title meaning two things, where the story is also about this girl hasn't been believed. It's unbelievable. So it's like, it really works. Perfect title as well. So credit to that. And so when we jump to episodes 7 and 8, this is where the show went to masterpiece levels, and that is when the director became Susanna Grant. My God, did she do an incredible job. Standing ovation for her. If this camera was taller, I would do it, but just know I'm in my heart doing that. Just starts off the bat with them clicking through here in episode 7, all these victim files on the computer, which is just so powerful. The numbers this guy, the number of people he affected, lives he ruined. And in this powerful episode 7, just this scene, if you're gonna like submit an Emmy for this show, it should be the scene where she's having Marie do the Why People Lie monologue. And they're looking at these pictures, and then they see her picture. And she's talking about how even with good people you thought you could trust, the truth is just inconvenient to them. And that's why they'll go away from it. Especially like someone like a Judith. And right when, the detectives say she looks 12, man, I was tearing like crazy there. That was just so well earned and so well just portrayed. And then I thought, after seeing episode 7, how the hell are you going to top that episode? I thought they were actually going to end it there. And then I saw there's another episode, and it was just as good. I do think 7 was the best, but 8 was also fantastic. That we got payoff too, where like in this story that the original detective gets his karma here, and he looks terrible. And Toni Collette emails him the pic of the victim. It's like, wow, it's like straight truth right in his face. It's just amazing when he goes to see Toni Collette and he sees all the work they did on the table. It's like, yeah, this is the stuff you didn't do and could have and should have been doing. And props to that actor as well. I don't know his name, but he was really good. That's a tough role to pull off. And I got some tears too when he went to admit to her that he messed up at her job. And it gave me some, feeling of kind of, I guess, like, okay, maybe this guy has some sort of soul there, which besides the other detective that was with him was just a grump and never apologizes. But I'm happy he manned up and actually went and face-to-face to tell her that, because he royally screwed up, and, sometimes they run away or they deny it still. And then she opens a check and it's $500 from the city. Oh my God. You always read about stories like this in the news, but then when you're there and you're in the store and you see it, man, does that piss you off. And you see she lawyers up smartly, and this is just an incredible story here by Marie and her doing this, especially at her age and not having all this guidance to tell her this. It's just awesome. And that she wanted the money for the reasons of justice, not just for money, and that showed that really clear too with settlements, because some people are like, oh, they're doing it for the money. It's like, no, she was doing this for what was right and making a statement. And the lawyer lets her know, like, it's going to be $150,000 they're paying to bury this. And she just wanted it to be over, because he was even saying he could get more. And she was like, no, I just wanted to make my point in a way. So, yeah, and it was just powerful, her naming all this stuff, why 500 originally was too cheap, and everything she'd been through, and lost her friends, lost her family, everything. So, her job, it just showed you again that power of what one rape incident and awful person can do to someone's life. And it haunts them forever. It's not just the rape. It's the aftermath. And I was just so relieved that this is a good, happy ending where this man gets 327 years in prison. What a win. It was just great seeing the two detectives fist bump. Man, that was awesome. Seeing the victims in the courtroom get their justice. And I love, too, that they had this storyline going on with Merritt Weaver's husband, where they're talking about, what is Max the Knife's why is he Max the Knife, her husband? And I thought it was going to be something bad or mysterious. They were kind of teasing you that way, but I like to end it on a good note. So it led this all to a very happy ending, which I loved and hopeful, because this show was so dark and such a story of just giving that conversation and getting it going. But giving hope to it too. And it was really interesting when they actually interview the rapist McCarthy, and he's just bringing up that fact too. Like, every time I get away with one, I get better and better. I should have been caught on the first one. He's like, my DNA was everywhere. Like, I was just expecting to get caught. So it shows you too, like, that's how important it is. Yeah, like, when there's a first case like of assault or rape, you have to give 110%, especially these detectives, and not wait till they've done like 6 or 7 people, because then they just get good, these guys. So it's like, that was a really good commentary as well. And I like that Marie went back to made an apology. At least that guy said he's sorry, and she's like, do better. I love that. But of course the other detective doesn't even say anything. He just looks at her. What a jerk. That's just a crappy person right there. So where it got super amazing and powerful and emotional to me was when she's on the beach, Marie, and she calls Karen, and Marie's on the beach, and the symbolism is, again, what I was talking about before, where the beach is like, that was her just view of hope and happiness and good in the world, and she had lost that when she was raped. But when she heard what they did, she gained it back. And what that beautifully shows is that good people can affect people anywhere, from any distance. And you may not even know you're helping someone. Like, anyone can change the world. Like, how hopeful of a message is that? And that is what Merritt Wever did. And just the way Kaitlyn Dever was saying her lines, like, how powerfully written it was, where she was like, if the world is this bad, so why would I want to be in it? Just giving us that total look into her mind of why she almost jumped off the bridge earlier in the season. And she said the thing that just gave her that hope again wasn't about the money. It wasn't the guy getting locked up. It was hearing what those 2 female detectives did. I wake up now and I imagine good things happening. Whew. Really something. And you know what? When she drives off now, she's learned to drive. It's one of her dreams, and she's learned to drive in life and take the wheel. And she drives in the sunset and she smiles, like, unbelievable. And just the narration of her saying thank you to her, man, that was something. That's top 10 powerful moment for me in just anything I've ever watched. Like, man, did that pay off. And again, Susanna Grant, you couldn't have done these last 2 episodes better. You took a show that I thought was pretty good and like put it this level. So it's tough to rate this one. I would, if every episode was a level of 7 and 8, I'd probably have given this series a 10. And then you can go to 5 and 6 were really good too. It wasn't 7 and 8, but they were really good. But my problems a little bit were 1 through 4, especially 3 was like fumbled a bit, so I can't forget that. But okay, sorry, not including 1. 1 was great too. So I would say the best episodes are 1, 7, and 8, and 5 and 6 were good. 3 and 4, and 2, So I got to be reasonable as a whole season rating. So I think it's fair to give it a 9.4. But I mean, some of these episodes were, I'd say 7 and 8 were 10s. But as a whole scale, 9.4. Again, just little things. I'm always going to nitpick stuff, trying to keep my bar high. But again, the title thing really pissed me off. That, again, the first scene, we don't know what year it is or what state it's in. Like, come on. And yeah, I think that this is one of the most important shows that's ever come out in recent time. I think everyone should watch this, no matter who you are, no matter what circumstance. I learned so much from this, and it was so powerful and effective and convincing. It kind of reminded me of the end of Big Little Lies Season 1. I'm not going to spoil if you haven't watched it, but it has that kind of vibe, how this ends, where it's like, oh my God, like, this is so earned, this is powerful, it's believable. I felt like I've become a smarter and more aware person because of this. And yeah, it was a hell of a ride. And again, the 3 leads here, Merritt Wever, Kaitlyn Dever, Toni Collette, amazing. Toni Collette is so likable. She added so much humor to this. I'm sure she improvised a lot of that. Merritt Wever was so good at just being real and just playing well. Someone sensitive, and not a pushover though, and just really, really complicated character, but made it look so easy. And again, Kaitlyn Dever, man, she's got to get nominated at least for this for the Emmy, and if she wins, she totally deserves it. This is a perfect performance by her. She didn't miss one note. Excellent. I mean, I'm blown away by her performance, and those 3 all deserve to be nominated, and Kaitlyn Dever deserves hands down to win that award, unless someone comes up with a better performance, but that's going to be tough to beat. And I think that everyone, the side characters, all casted great. Really good casting and good cinematography, good setting. I think the production design was really good. Lighting was on point. Everything had a nice tone to it. Again, I just feel like episodes 2, 3, 4, the tone was a little off and it felt like CBS, CSI, but it finds its groove 5 through 8, and that's when the show becomes really good. So again, 9.4 from me. Let me know what you thought of this down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole season. Anything, any scene that you like or stuff you didn't like. Maybe you didn't like the series as a whole, or maybe you liked it more than me. So let me know. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. I review a bunch of TV shows, movies, and I also do celebrity interviews as well, so you don't want to miss that. And please follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me, and I'll see you next time.